wonderful night. Please give Owen courage as he shares his testimony. Give him strength. Please keep him safe during the next week. And thank you for everything you have given us.
Amen. Nice. Well, perfect. All right. So if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago how I was feeling about giving my testimony, I would have said super nervous. But God has put a bunch of people in my life that have helped me change this nervousness into excitement. So that's been pretty cool to watch. God's answered a lot of prayers in the past 2 weeks for me, and it's cool when He answers prayers quickly. But anyways, I got 3 Bible verses that I'm going to incorporate throughout my testimony tonight. I got 3 Bibles. Who wants a Bible? I'm going to have you guys read it.
But I got you. Owen. No, Owen, please.
Sweet. So I was thinking about how to divvy up my testimony, I guess. And I pretty much decided on middle school, high school, and outside of high school. Because for me, like elementary school and when I was growing up, I don't remember a lot of that, really. Maybe that's just because I have bad memory. But pretty much, I grew up in Zeeland. I was actually born at the hospital right at City on the Hill over here. And then went to Zeeland Christian. Pretty much all elementary school was just getting into trouble with my classmates. That's pretty much what we did. It felt like our goal was to make teachers quit. We had a bad reputation as a Spanish class for making teachers quit. I think we had, I want to say we had 2 teachers probably that we got between 1st and 5th grade. But, I mean, it was to the extent of we would memorize teachers' license plates numbers just to mess with them. Came up with a whole song about it and everything. And then after school was done, there was a few of us that would stick around for a little bit, and we'd mess around on the playground or whatever. We'd come up with new games. We'd try to get on top of Zeeland Christian School. I wouldn't recommend that, but it was a funny story. So, but anyways, once elementary school was done, I went into middle school, obviously, and I played soccer. I had Mr. Hutt as a coach. I don't know if he's still coaching. And then I also played baseball. Got good grades in school for the most part. I feel like when I was in middle school, I didn't really have a friend group. I kind of hung out with everybody. Not a bad thing, but not a good thing. But yeah, I wanted to focus on kind of a story from middle school, high school, and outside of high school that really has helped shape me in my faith walk. And the story I'm going to tell about middle school is, do you guys know Mrs. Zasher? Is she still teaching there?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, she was one of my favorite teachers, but she teaches, what is that, 7th grade or 8th grade? 7th grade? Perfect. That helps the time frame, because I was trying to think back to if this happened during 7th grade or 8th grade, but 7th grade. But we were covering the story of Job. She was teaching that, and that was a really cool story to learn for the first time. The story of Job summed up pretty much as a guy who had everything, and then it was taken away just kind of randomly, it felt like. And a lot of questions came up in his life of like why God did this. And a lesson through Job that I learned is God allows suffering in the lives of believers. And that's a hard truth to accept, because it's hard to go through suffering as a believer, obviously. But I actually, in response to that story, I remember saying a prayer of, hey, God, I don't feel like I've gone through a lot of suffering in my life. Now, this was a very bold prayer to pray. If there's something along the lines that, or something along the way that you want to bring into my life as kind of a suffering that you want me to go through and get closer to you, bring that into my life. Very bold prayer, and it was answered very quickly. About 2 days later, I got the flu, and that lasted for a little bit. But it really started to get crazy pretty much a few days after I got the flu. So I was out practicing baseball at Sports Quest. You guys know where that's at? Yeah. Right across from Zeeland East High School there. They got base pads there. So you got your regular distance, and then you have, what is it, 60, 90 or something like that. And you have a base pad that you can move in between distances if you want to change the distance of the field or whatever. So I moved the base pad out one, and I put this foam insert in. My dad was hitting ground balls to me, and he had a ground ball right towards that insert. I dove for it, and my knee hit the corner of that metal insert. Split it right open. I didn't notice my knee actually split open until I probably walked all the way to my truck out there before I actually noticed anything happened. But ended up going to the hospital that night, got 14 staples, pretty crazy. That's about the biggest injury that's happened to me. But like I said, God answered that prayer really quickly. So I'm sitting at home now with nothing to do pretty much, just sitting on the couch with I had to keep my leg straight for a long period of time because I obviously couldn't bend it. And then that took about a month to recover from. But during that month, I actually grew a lot closer to God. And a lesson I learned throughout middle school is, like Job, suffering can bring you closer to God. And with the help of, I had one night where there was a few of my classmates going to youth group that showed up at my house and dropped off candy or whatever, just checked in on me. I read the Bible more than I ever have. Stuff like that helped me get a lot closer to God. But once my knees started feeling better, then I woke up and I had a side ache. And it was bad enough to where I was like, okay, Mom, I'm staying home from school again. I've already missed who knows how many days now. But anyways, that side ache started getting worse and worse throughout the day, and I ended up going to the hospital again. Turns out it was appendicitis. So for those of you who don't know what that is, an appendix is pretty much a useless organ that everyone has that has the potential to explode at any time. So for some people, like me, it can possibly explode. So you got to get it cut out before it explodes, obviously. And I had the surgery, it went good. And that was kind of the end of what that suffering was, I guess, that I prayed for. Anyways, who's got Isaiah 41 verse 10? You want to read that quick amount?
Sing to the Lord a new song, his praise from the ends of the earth. You who go down to the sea and all that's in it, you islands and all who live in them.
Is that the right verse? No, I'm starting to. Might have wrote the wrong one down.
So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteousness.
That was a verse that kind of reflected middle school for me right there. That was one of the first verses I ever actually took the time to memorize, and it stuck with me for my whole life. So that's something I encourage you guys to do too, is to take some time and memorize a verse. All right, so now high school. Okay. So during high school, my priorities quickly became sports, hanging out with the cool crowd, and pretty focused on me throughout all high school. And yeah, throughout high school, I feel like my fire for Christ slowly started to fade. When I went into high school, I was really close with God after, like I said, the suffering I went through and how it brought me closer to Him. But once I got into high school, I started to kind of put my identity in earthly things, and that led to a weaker relationship with God. Who's got the Romans 1:25 verse? Go ahead.
They exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised.
That was a verse I just recently found. I've been trying to go through the book of Romans, and I feel like that kind of reflected pretty good with kind of my high school journey and where my priorities were. Yeah, throughout high school, it wasn't all downhill. I went on a bunch of mission trips. I started to develop good Christian friends towards the end of high school, and I even got the opportunity to profess my faith with a lot of them, and that was a really cool moment. But the story I want to cover in high school, I guess, is how to kind of get through temptation. So during high school, the main thing that ruined my relationship with God was lust, and that's a big word, and it's really awkward to talk about, but that is one of the biggest things that the devil uses and puts in your life to distract you from your relationship with God. And I was looking at pictures and videos and stuff I shouldn't have been looking at, and praise God, I don't do that anymore. But I mean, that it's a slow thing when the devil puts a temptation into your life. It's not going to be quick. It's going to be little things here and there that slowly start building up, and then you get to the point where you kind of are all in with that temptation now, and it's a tough spot to be in. But in high school, I learned that along with God's word and prayer, God also puts people in my life that can help me walk through those temptations. But it's just important to surround yourself with believers and friends and people that are going to help strengthen your relationship with Christ. You just need to have the boldness to ask them, because it's hard to do things on your own. It's impossible to do things on your own, and you need help. So, yeah. Then outside of high school, this is where life kind of starts here in the real world, comes in the big picture. And I learned that life is a lot bigger than Zeeland, Michigan. I quickly started working full-time right out of high school as an electrician, got put on a bunch of jobs. But one thing I started to realize is I kind of started to feel like an outsider as a believer. I've never felt that my whole life. I mean, let's do a test here. Raise your hand if you guys know 5 non-believers. So, a few of you guys. But in my life, when I was about ready to go outside high school, I didn't really know 5 non-believers. I was surrounded with so many people that grew up in the faith. So that was kind of a culture shock for me once I got outside of high school, and I was the outsider now. So I guess the challenge for me now that I was outside of high school and kind of doing my own thing, working, was how do I try to bring up Jesus to these non-believers that I'm working with? And for the longest time, I just would stay quiet and just go about my day and not prioritize being bold in my faith, which is very hard to do, especially with people that you don't know, such as my coworkers. But I slowly started building up courage to just do little things that kind of showed that I was a believer or brought up certain things. And as a result, that made me kind of a target almost. I was looked at differently with the people I was working at. I even was made fun of at times, which to me I was like, how is this even possible? I grew up with friendly people that were Christian my whole life. I didn't realize this was even a possibility, you know what I mean? Like I said, it was a complete culture shock. And then the thing I struggled with was why these people didn't want to listen to me. And I learned that I can't expect to deliver God's message and get a result right away. Sometimes God's just calling you to kind of plant a seed in their life. And it might not seem like much, but over time, there's a few more people get into their life and plant a seed, and eventually that seed that you planted could help them become a Christian and accept God into their lives. Yeah, so that was one thing I learned during the time I was outside of high school. Yeah, how about, who's got the last verse there?
I do.
Perfect.
I long to see you so that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to make you strong. That you and I may have the mutual encouraged by each other's faith.
Perfect. Yeah, so that verse right there, that's kind of where I'm at now, I feel like. God's put a lot of people in my life, random people that have encouraged me in my faith just by them sharing their testimony or getting to know them again and seeing what God's doing in their life. So that's kind of like a challenge for me, and I challenge you guys too with your friends or family, that you encourage them in their faith, however that might look like. But yeah, I guess leave this time open to questions here. That pretty much sums up everything. So thanks for listening, guys.